Tuning your choice, tapping into the frequency of an empowered life. This podcast is all about making choices. Let's face it, life is all about choice we make. And what would you do when life gives you lemons? Here I will share inspirational story of everyday warriors who have overcome struggles, adversity, challenges, and learned how to be their life authors and live life to the fullest. By capturing their stories, their learning and their experiences, each story become like a piece of evidence, and they can give you the courage that you can too. Do you know it's only take 1 second to make the choice? The choice that can lead you out of the loop of struggle. The choice that allows you to claim your power and be the author of your own story. Throughout the podcast, you're gonna hear stories from everyday people who have made empowered choice that lead themselves to live a happy and fulfilled life. Their tales will inspire you, uplift you, and give you hope that there is always a different choice to make in any situation. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about me and why making an empowered choice is so important to me. Hi, I'm your host, Zaki-Leung. I'm a transformational speaker, a breakthrough mentor, and a subconscious healing specialist. Coming from a challenging background, where my parents disowned me when I was just 8 months old. Growing up, I faced bullying, abuse, and family violence. I experienced firsthand how trauma can impact our life, physically and mentally, and how it can leave deep scars in our subconscious mind. But I make a choice to liberate myself from the past, to get on my own healing journey at the age of 15 and reclaim the power of my own life. Now, 20 years later, I'm living my purpose, spreading the message of choice, helping others to transform, and reminding each one of us, you have a choice. No matter where you're tuning in from, join me and let's create a life that's full of possibility. Tania Davies is the success slow coach, a highly motivated strategic thinker, communicator, therapist, and consultant on a mission to help individuals and business better understand the future of productivities and well-being. Tania has a degree in business management, a master in marketing, and 20 plus years experience in positive psychology and well-being, mindset transformation, resilience, strategic communication, sales, and marketing. Tania is the owner and director of the Mindful Impact Wellness Hub, where she coaches clients in her capacity as a clinical hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, and master of Neuro Linguistic programming, NLP. She's passionate about guiding busy professionals struggling with overwhelm, anxiety, and stress on how to achieve more without that constant busy. Tania's journey to become the success slow coach has been success and failure, delivering fascinating insights and empowering lessons. This learning from the foundation of a transformational slow leadership approach in coaching and training both organizations and individuals, looking to prioritize the well-being of their staff and business. Tania today will be sharing her story from confusion to clarity and confidence. So let us welcome Tania tuning in today.
Thank you very much, Sue. That was a massive intro. Thank you.
That is a long but very informative intro. First of all, Tania, really welcome you join us today in here.
Thank you.
First of all, tell us where you're tuning in from. Which part you in?
I'm actually in a little old area called Crafers in the Adelaide Hills in South Australia. So yeah, it's actually turned a little bit chilly today, so you'll have to excuse me with the heater on already.
Already, yay.
Bit of a sook.
Give us a glimpse about your life. Tell us who you are.
Who am I? Well, as you know, I'm known as the Success Slow Coach, but outside of that, I am a mum of two beautiful young girls, 11 and 7. I'm a wife to a crazy, insane human being. I love him, but he's a little bit crazy, as am I. What else do I do? I do karate. I instruct and teach karate. I'm also training karate myself.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I'm a gardener. I love painting. I'm a very creative person. If I'm not doing something with my hands, I talk with my hands a lot. If I'm not doing something with these hands in a creative sense, then I don't feel like I'm living. I do a lot of, apart from running the wellness hub that I'm in at the moment, where I'm coming from today, I also do a lot of energy management, energy work with people in the one-on-one coaching and success space. I work with them as well. So I incorporate a lot of stuff into what I do with people, but only ever what they need to get them from where they want to be, where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah, it sounds like you have many tools in your toolbox and you have a lot of hobbies.
Yes.
And yeah, and so Tanya, let me tell the audience how we met. I
Yes.
actually stalk you. So me and Tanya met in one of the intensive workshop in the speaker area. So we know each other as a speaker. The first time I saw Tanya's name, Success Slow Coach. I wonder what it means because I come from a very busy, non-stop background, been working in corporate in Hong Kong. And then I was like, okay, that must be a very interesting story behind that. And after that, I follow and stalk her on social media and see what is her about. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have to invite Tanya to be part of the podcast. So thank
You're a
you.
healthy stalker then, that's okay.
Yeah. So, but by reading your story and the conversation that we have before, I know that you are far from a slow person before. And yeah, so what
Yeah.
did you become a slow coach and now spreading this message? What's the backstory behind it?
Yeah, well, just like you, I was in the corporate world for quite a long time. And let's be honest, I've always been an overachieving perfectionist. I'm a reformed perfectionist now, I'd like to say. But the typical overachiever, trying to control everything in my world. Since I think I could walk, if you probably ask my mum, I always speak too fast, I move too fast, I do everything fast. And when I eventually got to the period in my life, which we'll talk about later, I'll hold that till later, some stuff went down in my world multiple times where if I'd paid close enough attention, if I was in a place that I was slow enough to go, oh gosh, I can see what's really happening here, and look beyond the behavior that I was showing, all the fast, 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 that
Mm,
fast, fast, fast that we do is coming from genuinely a place of fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of missing out on something, so many other fears which we can have a chat about. But when we can get beyond that, we start to get our life in a little bit more perspective and go, what is it we're really trying to do and be being so fast? And I certainly know from, where I'm at now working with people one on one and the breakthroughs that I do with them, we cannot do this work fast. And it
yeah.
doesn't mean I'm going to have you in therapy for 20 years. That's not my style. So, in a nutshell, the work we do is actually reasonably fast.
Yeah.
But when you're with me, there is nothing other than the ability to go slow. The internal work we do can't be rushed.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that if we're all honest with ourselves, this constant need to keep going and be everything to everyone, we're all feeding each other this nonsense story about we need to be something other than we are right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have the goals and to strive and to drive for those things. But honestly, if we can be happy and content and grateful for where we're at right now, that's where the real work and change can happen.
Yeah. When, since you have this realization,
When did I have it? Oh, that's going to be leading into my beautiful story, isn't it? So I'd like to think I was smart enough to have worked it out 10, 15 years ago. But let's be honest, I've had to learn it multiple times, like most people. The universe taps us on the shoulder a few times. I'm still learning it every day. But that major realization happened in 2016. Yes, that was a year. That
Mm.
was the year that, unfortunately, my husband had quite a serious accident that year. I just, I was on maternity leave. I was only into about my fourth month of maternity leave, and I had just gone through a major sinus reconstruction operation myself, and so I was sort of 4 weeks after that recovering. It was a pretty major operation. There was a lot of recovery time needed, but I had a 3 month old with me, or a 3.5 month old with me, and a three and a half year old with me too. And I was looking after them, and we were renovating, and it was still go, go, go. And you know, you're on maternity leave, you're supposed to be slowing down and nurturing yourself and nurturing the children. Yeah, right. It was basically a juggle between feeding children, sleeping children, feeding me, sleeping me. You know what it's like.
Mm.
We've seen it. We've all been there. And it got to the point where I was pushing so hard for stuff to get done that my husband was up on the roof one day and he was working on something that had to be done by the next day. And unfortunately, I'm sitting there and I'm breastfeeding my youngest, and I'm multitasking by reading to my other daughter at the same time, you know, trying to cover all bases.
Mommy
And
duty.
mum, yeah, exactly. Always on, mum duty. And in that moment, there was just a massive bang. And my heart sunk because I knew where my husband was at that point. He was supposed to be on the roof.
Mm.
And so I threw the book down, child under one arm, told the other one to stay. I went running to the door. I opened the door, and there's my husband, lying on the ground in a pool of blood, one hand at an angle that no hand should ever be at, the other hand turning black and swelling very quickly, massive laceration across his head, blood everywhere. He had just fallen 3 meters straight onto cement head first. He'd shattered his hands completely as he landed. And I mean shattered the internal bones in his hands. And I just quickly went into freeze mode, as most people do. And then a split second later, I went into overdrive. And in an emergency, I'm one of those people that will just get everything sorted, which is a good thing in that moment. I'm definitely not the person that runs. I'm the let's get it sorted kind of person. So I went into warrior mode, as I call it. And so I had a phone under this end, on the ambulance, stopping the bleeding, trying to put the baby in the bassinet, sending the other child next door to the neighbours, doing all this stuff. And I was just go, 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 non-stop. Didn't want to think, couldn't stop to think. It was about probably half an hour later that I found myself in a waiting room in the hospital, major hospital here in Adelaide. And I'm sitting there and I'm rocking the pram backwards and forwards. And I'm trying to distract myself with everything I can. Because at this point, my husband's been taken away in an ambulance and I've not seen him. I've not heard. I'm trying to keep him conscious as he's lying on the floor and he's literally whisked away from me. That was it. And I'm sitting there and I'm rocking backwards and forwards, doing the best I can. I turned my phone off because I didn't want to speak to anyone, backwards and forwards. I was in that room for hours before I was told whether my husband was even alive. He was. And I could finally breathe.
Thank God.
Yeah. But that's not where the real journey began for me, because it was hours, again, in that emergency room with a little tiny baby, watching people have cardiac arrests and, you know, people coming off drugs and all that kind of stuff around me, trying to protect my little one at the same time. And they came out and they said to me, look, we've put your husband under and we've reset his arms as best we can right now to stop the emergency component of what was going on. But unfortunately, it didn't work. And we can't put him back under again. It's too risky. So we need your permission to break his wrists again, both of them, to put them back. And I'm there in shock. And I said, so you want me to sign off on breaking my husband's wrists again while he's fully aware of what's going on? Yes. Okay. Is it an emergency? Like, is this life or death? And I basically got a, Tania, it needs to be done. What do you do? Okay. So we did it. Whew. I could hear him from the waiting room. But he was alive. So we kept going. Within 48 hours, I was at home having put down my 3-month-old and my 3.5-year-old. They're soundly asleep, finally in bed. And guess what? My husband is already home 48 hours later with a massive, massive padding across his head because he had lacerations. He had 3 skull fractures. He couldn't see out of his eyes. His eyes were completely swollen over from all the damage. His wrists and arms were all strapped. He couldn't see. He couldn't feed himself. He couldn't bathe himself. He couldn't go to the toilet. He couldn't do anything. So I now had 3 children on my hands. And I was leaning against the bedroom door just staring at my absolute rock, completely broken in that bed. And I thought, enough. Enough's enough. I can't keep doing the go, go, go thing. In that moment, I started going through cycles of guilt, and gosh, guilt was probably one of the biggest ones because I was the one that had asked him to sort out the thing on the roof that needed to be done by this time so that could be done, so this could be done. Push, push, push. Clearly, I know to this day that none of that was actually really my fault. But in that moment, it hit hard and it was heavy. And so I'm standing there in the bedroom door just looking at him in that bed, thinking to myself, he's the main income earner in that point because I'm on maternity leave. This is going to be interesting. So I took my baby the next day and I went into his office to meet his boss, who was also my boss too. And I sat down at a board table with about 5 people and I negotiated like there was no tomorrow for them to leave my husband alone. For 6 months, I said, you give me the extra work that needs to be done. Yes, I'm on maternity leave, but you give me any correspondence that needs to go to him. It gets filtered through me. And I won't let him see any of it. And the team will have to work out what the team has to do because he is my number one. And so for 6 months, he's a pretty damn fast healer, that man, physically at least. And so I was nursing him through physical and mental and emotional rehab during that time. But, after 6 months, I had him back to work and I was sort of left with a few months left of maternity leave. And that's when it all really came crashing down for me because I'd secretly injured myself during that time too. And I had a really bad injury I moved 4 ton of mulch one day to get it out of the way because on the day of the accident, we had 4 ton of mulch delivered right in the bloody way of where we needed to drive into our house. So I did that quietly, moved all that, didn't tell anyone, just got it done. And I really injured myself. And I always remember I was outside and I had, again, her bubs in my arm and I was bending down to pick up the baby monitor. And I got halfway up and I froze.
Oh.
I couldn't move. And so I'm down there with the baby monitor, which is not particularly helpful because there's no one at the other end of it because the baby's with me. And so I'm frozen with the baby in my arms and I'm just like this. And I was there for at least 10 minutes. And I was holding the baby and just kept holding the best I could until I could straighten myself enough to get up our massive flight of stairs back up to our balcony to come back inside. And that, to be honest, was one of the moments I went, right, it's time to come out of warrior mode now. And it's time to heal. And part of that healing also meant the mental, physical, emotion, and spiritual side of what healing truly is. For me, it has to be all areas, and that's what I work with people now on, is making sure that we don't neglect any of those areas, because that makes a well-rounded human being by the end of it. And to work through our traumas. Like I said, that wasn't the first instance that the universe decided to slow me down. But it certainly was one of those moments where I couldn't make any more excuses at that point. Yeah. I'm breaking myself. And once I'm broken, physically, at least in that point, who's going to help everybody else too? And so that definitely started me reframing my whole world. And I went on to retrain. I created a plan to get out of corporate. Created a plan to set up my my business here in the hub now, where I've got other practitioners with me, and also set me on my speaking journey as well. So it's been a ride, that's for sure, Sue.
Yeah. And so you were on maternity leave.
Mm.
And then what happened when you come back? Did you just quit or? No. What I did is I knew I'm a planner. I've always been a good planner. And once I've got something in my mind, I generally get it done and stick to it. So even though I was working horrific hours already
in a marketing position, and I was traveling a lot still. I decided enough was enough. So I actually worked out a study plan of how much I could humanly achieve, what I could get done. And then also at the same time, I've got a degree in business management. So I already had the business skills behind me. That wasn't a thing I was ever concerned about. But having said that, nothing prepares you for moving from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur. And the absolute different mentality you need every day working in those two different spaces. Because as an entrepreneur, I was still sitting here looking over my shoulder, kind of going, who's going to ask me, that next question? Because my door, yes, I had an open door policy, but it was a revolving door when I was in corporate, and I was never left alone. And then all of a sudden I was very alone. And so managing those mental and emotional stages as well is something that I had to learn to work through. It's what I help women with now to make sure that they don't feel isolated. But at the same time, what I did have to do was go, okay, I'm a massive support for all three people in the house, as my husband is too. But to be able to be there for them as well, I have to do this sustainably. So that was 2016 when that happened. By January the next year, I had set up my ABN and all of the business structure. And I started practicing what I knew already at the exact same time as working in corporate. So I was pretty much working 7 days, trying to get it all done, and night shifts as well. Studying quite a number of nights, very late, lonely, but got it done. And so I actually completely left the corporate world 100% behind in very, very early 2019. So yeah, it was
time period.
It was a hybrid for a while.
Yeah.
And then my husband definitely got to the point of going, you can't, it's time to jump. And I did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because I have a similar path as well. And sometimes it's hard to just step out 100% because we, as a woman, we still have to think, what about this? What about that? What about the
Let's be honest,
bills?
Sue, it's terrifying.
Yeah, right. And I remember I do planned a long time, and of course that billing. So we surely have been those 7 work days. It's not healthy though. It's not
Yeah.
healthy though. Yeah, I can't do
Oh,
it too long. Some people say they can work 7 days for a whole entire year. No, please don't.
yeah. Look, I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it, but if I look back and I say, look, when I was in corporate, I was at the beck and call of ministers and, the CEO and, just being dragged here, there, and everywhere. And I remember I was actually in Toronto, Canada, for work, and the team back here in Australia was on Australian time, right? Well, we were on Canadian time when they don't mix those times. So I was literally on call pretty much 24 hours a day for the 2 weeks that I was there. And I got incredibly sick towards the end
Yeah.
of it. Coming home, I mean, it was like minus 35 degrees. It was like snowstorms and everything. So we weren't used to that, going from 40 degrees to that. That was that was not nice. But it was one of those moments again, another realization. I'm going, what am I trying to do here? Who am I trying to impress? It's not me anymore. Who am I seriously trying to impress? It's time to park the ego because this is killing me. And it really was. And my husband could see, he could see it from a mile away. I mean, we worked together, we worked on the same multi-million-dollar project, and we knew that we can't do this. And so interestingly, after his recovery, because he went through some quite severe depression after the physical injuries, etc., I was helping him to transition out of his position well before I transitioned out of mine, because I could see the writing on the wall. So it was a very complicated plan I'd created, but we needed to do it nonetheless. And now he's happy as Larry in his new space that he works in now. So and same here.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And you just talk about that we need to keep chasing deadline to do something. And I think many people doing it actually every day without knowing it. Yeah, this rushing.
Groundhog Day.
For me, myself, was a very good example. Like by this time, have to get this done. Each day we have to put like 20 things in there. At one point, just like, why? And it's a blessing for you to realize that why. And after that, after you make that choice that you think, okay, enough is enough, you need to do something in life,
Yeah.
then of course you make the changes with the planning and also thinking finally step out and doing the things that you love and achieve that great balance in your life as well.
Yeah.
But tell me, some people might think, yeah, after we make the choice and everything is be okay. But of course, for us, we've been there. We know that's not.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the
I've
beginning.
been a lot of challenge and still facing different
Yes.
challenge along the way every day because this is just
Yep.
part of life. Share with me about yours. Have you seen faced any setback and challenge along the way?
Oh, no, none at all.
Oh,
You're right.
that's
So
awesome.
I mentioned before about the isolation side of it. So I'm a massive introvert, to be honest. My best company is myself in the bath with a book. That's how I recharge myself. And having worked in marketing for so long, I actually didn't realize how drained I
Mm,
was all the time because there was rarely a down moment, right? You're always out there doing something. What I found after I actually did step out of that corporate world, I actually thought I was sick for a while there. My husband started getting concerned too, but I was sleeping 14 hours a night for probably, I reckon it ended up being about 8 weeks. And my husband was like, okay, we probably need to think about getting this checked. And I actually said to him, I instinctively knew, and I said, sweetheart, I've been in fight or flight mode since I could walk. I've just come out of it. And I literally have nothing to do tomorrow. Yes, I was still running a business, but I gave myself a month to acclimatise, not long, a month, to acclimatise as to what the heck was going on. And my body just went, oh, enough. And finally, I mean, for those that would know about fight or flight mode, my autonomic nervous system all of a sudden switched. And now it's going, she can finally rest. She can finally draw all the blood back to the parts of the body that have been neglected for so long. And so that's what happened, and my whole body went through a complete reset. I wasn't ready for that. I was like, whoa, I can't do things. I don't have the energy to do things. And it was funny because my body decided what was my priorities for a while there.
mm,
And then that loneliness started to kick in a bit because even though I do like my own company, I found I was talking to walls sometimes to get some feedback on things. And I don't get particularly good feedback off the wall. I don't know about you, but so I started to create a network around me of really successful women because, you know, the Speakers Institute always tells us that proximity is power. So, you
absolutely.
know, yeah. And so people like yourself, I would always have people around me that inspired me and that pushed me and pushed my buttons the right way because I don't need people telling me, oh, you're so good at this or you're good at that. No, no, no. I want people going, you could be so much better at this bit or work out, have you looked at this? That's what actually brings me enjoyment and makes me a better version of me. And so that's also the kind of women that I ended up attracting into my clinic as well to work with me. Sadly enough, though, you want to know, there's a little term I use for some of the women, some of the women I work, I was seeing a theme coming through and it really concerned me. And I call them the secret suicidals
Mm,
because they are absolutely doing everything they can just to hold it together. And they don't tell too many people that they're absolutely at their breaking point, but
mm.
they are
And they're
because it's as
probably
though they don't
scary
have another.
inside too.
Yeah, it's like they don't have another choice. They're potentially watching their marriages break down because they're at their wits' end as well. Their kids seem to them, at least, of being completely unable to be managed. Give me a child that can be managed, and you know we'll have that separate conversation. But, but you know, and then their businesses or their careers would suffer. And so you know, I started working with professional working women, executive levels, managers. That on the outside looks peachy. It's like Instagram life. No, not at all. And in fact, there isn't anything as such, really. And so if I get back to the conversation about the challenges, yeah, there's been plenty. But I think when you surround yourself with people who are willing to create a safe space for you to land, that's super important.
Mm. And give time yourself to recharge
Yeah,
as well.
very much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
every
great.
day, every single day. So don't leave it, 40 something years to decide to do it. Every single day, I spend like, you know, I'm not perfect, but I absolutely aim to do an hour of meditation a day. Because for me, and you'd know with your skills as well, meditation and what we're doing with our brainwaves when we're doing that, That's resetting our entire body. That's just not mental and emotional work we're doing. That's physical work too.
Yeah.
So that for me is one of my sanctuaries. It really is.
And
So
to
yeah.
add on this regards meditation, some people
Mm.
might think doing, let's say, half-hour meditation or 1 hour meditation is kind of wasting the time. They would rather use this time to have a nap or something,
Yep.
or go and scroll videos on Facebook
Yeah.
and this sort of things. But in fact, let's just say that meditate half an hour, that
Yeah.
your brain get rest, get recharged.
Mm.
You feel way better than having that 1 hour nap.
Absolutely.
Personal
Yep.
experience. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
it really rejuvenate your whole body and your mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's something like a 7 hour self hypnosis session. I mean, that's my background. That's what I do. So 7 minutes, sorry, not 7 hours, 7 minute self hypnosis session is the equivalent to like 2 hours of deep sleep.
Yeah,
That to me is gaining time. So
yeah.
even though I work in the so slow space and I help people slow down, what I'm actually doing is getting them back time.
Mm,
Because I have so many people, I listen to the language that people use around me, and it's always this, that's a waste of time, or I could never find the time. It's like, oh, they've lost something. As opposed to, well, I bet you can make the time. Can you create some time in your diary?
mm,
So the language, when you start flipping it on people, is one going from a sense of desperation and loss to looking future, it's future facing and a space of creation. I
yeah,
don't know about you, but I definitely want the space of creation. And a lot of people don't know that they're actually they're living against their timelines.
yeah,
There's never enough hours in the day. How often do we hear that?
yeah. And this it's time to rethink how we prioritize our day as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes in my clinic, some of the clients say, I just have no time to do this, you know.
Mm.
And I was
It's
like,
a very convenient excuse, isn't it?
yeah, but I was like, just imagine if you go to road trip, if you got no petrol, we're just like, because you have to head to this destination,
Yeah.
so you force your car to keep driving, and this
Yeah.
almost impossible.
Yeah, well, for
And
those of us that have run out of petrol, we know now we keep an eye on that gauge, right? And most people are very careful not to let their phones run down, ironically. Yeah, it's quite happy for for them to go to bed at like, I was talking to the person the other day. Well, they were saying 1, 2 o'clock, and I'm going, one of the questions I use that gets way overused in my office, but it's so powerful is, so what's the purpose of doing that? Because there'll always be a positive intent that your body's looking for. And most people are
Mhm.
like, there's no positive intent in me staying up until that time of night. Yeah, it is. You may well be searching for you time because everybody wants a piece of you during the day. And that's
Yeah,
the only time that you believe, at least with this current thinking, that you're getting that you time for you. So let's reframe that, because I'm all about reframing success as well, and stop comparing yourself to everybody else out there. We have to actually create what success is for you. And that's why I call it being the success slow coach, because it's so much more sustainable. I've done the burnout thing. I've done being close to the nervous breakdowns, those kind of things. What's the point?
mm. And how they can spot that? Some people might don't know they're actually in the age of burnout.
Yeah.
How would you suggest, like, what's usually is the symptoms or the
Mm.
ways that they can spot them?
Well, there's a lot. I think if anyone is honest with themselves, if they're experiencing any anxious thoughts, if they know that they're in the space of depression, they're the pretty obvious ones. But for me, I think we can catch things a lot earlier than that.
Mm,
And if you look at the way things tend to cascade, chronic stress tends to turn into anxiety, especially when your health starts to get affected. I mean, chronic stress is like the biggest impact on your health. And then, of course, anxiety is going to, at some point, potentially move towards depression, etc. If we can catch it way at the beginning and we start looking at things such as your breathing, how often do you find yourself holding your breath?
or
How often do you actually take a deep abdominal breath and reset your system? How many times can you actually quiet your mind in a moment? Are you feeling all of your day with stuff? Or are you quite happy to sit in your stillness? And so those little tiny breadcrumbs are evidence. I mean, I'm a very fast talker, and I have to say, all the generations moving forwards are quite fast talkers. But interestingly, those that are talking fast generally are trying to cover something. They don't know they are, but it's that need to fill in the time, fill in the space. So one of my biggest learnings has been, especially in training as a speaker, is to slow down. And I can hear my mum laughing her backside off when I say that, because she's told me that her whole life. Still continues to say that to me. But for me, I know that if I'm going at 100 miles an hour with my voice in particular, it's time to bring it back, start to reassess. And, and that's not just because sometimes, we get nervous with things. You're a speaker too. You know that there are times where you will get nervous and you will speed up with things. Doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about or your content, because you do. I talk fast when I'm excited too. So if we can just park those things and go, actually beyond that, am I still trying to be fast? Is my heart going fast? Am I moving super fast? Have a look at my diary. Is there 5 minutes to myself in there? Those are some really quick little tips and indications. If you're not willing to put yourself first in any situation, that is a glaring neon sign that there's something wrong.
I have to check my diary after this. But yes, I think, like, just to, before we wrapped up, but yeah, to remind everyone, sometimes it's almost dangerous for us to keep holding that thought is, okay, just right after I finish this project and I will da. But
Yes.
wait, it's time to rethink this. Like, put yourself first and really
Absolutely.
look after yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I say to everyone, look, success in the slow lane, speak English, Tanya, success in the slow lane is sustainable. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have that than burnout.
Yeah. Oh, what's the point if you get burned out and your body is reacting, then you get a success, you got no time to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And one last question I want to ask Tania today. Throughout your journey, if if I ask you to recommend, is there any books help you along your journey? Is there any books you could recommend to us?
Yeah, look, I inhale books. I love books. I have too many, so I'm going to keep it to three, but I brought them here. So I'm addicted to all of the work of a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I love him.
He's amazing because he's a healthy balance for me of the science, being a neuroscientist, and the woo woo. So I'm completely on both of those ends. And so he very elegantly brings those two concepts together for me. But
Yeah.
because I've faced numerous health challenges in my time, I started with his book, You Are the Placebo, but have moved through pretty much all of his books. And so a lot of meditations I listen to, apart from my own, are his. And they're very profound, incredibly profound. One person who has absolutely changed my life, and I've had the pleasure of meeting in person and training with, is a guy called Dr. Brian Weiss. And he is the author, actually, of many books. The first one being Many Lives, Many Masters, but this one here really caught my attention. So Same Soul, Many Bodies,
Yeah.
because I absolutely work
I
in the
love this
space
book.
of working with people at a soul level is something I do. And then finally, on a slightly more academic level, I guess, this one, if you've never read this is an absolute, you can tell by its grottiness that I read it a lot. The Body Keeps the Score. So Bessel van der Kolk. He's amazing. If you want to find out where a lot of your stuff's come from, he delves into trauma and how it relates and how your body is actually showing you where you're holding the trauma. So in terms of the psychotherapy and the hypnotherapy side of a lot of what I do, the brain-body connection, it very much comes down to transforming people's trauma and helping them get past it, release it, and then actually constructing and coaching them forward to a future that they actually have designed for themselves, not one of just consequence from their past.
Thank you. I love the last question usually, because so by listening what the guest is sharing their book list, so I can keep increasing on my book list, even though my bookshelf is already full. But yes, yeah, I love what that 3 books you just shared. And the last book, the third one, I haven't read it, but yeah, I will put my hands on now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you're working with anyone in a clinical sense, I highly recommend this book to everyone and anyone. So, yeah, the body keeps the score.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya, to call
You're
me,
welcome, Sue.
tuning in today and join us and share us your journey and your choice and how you basically change your life, the
Yeah.
whole path. And yeah, so I'm sure that our audience will find this is very useful and insightful as well. So first of all, thank you for joining us.
You're
And
welcome.
and the last, to the audience, if you or anyone that you know have an amazing story that you think that could benefit the collective, contact me so then we can schedule some time to let you come here to share your story as well. So later on, I will post Tania social media handles in the comment or in the description. And also, if you have any question that want to find me, you can also contact me in choice at ZakiLeung.com. The last question to you is, what is that one choice you're going to make today to let yourself be better than yesterday? What's that? Just start with one choice. Comment down below and let us know. And last, remember, you always have a choice. Thank you.